Welcome back to the channel. You're watching Sawtooth Tactical. Suppressed SBRs, short-barreled rifles, for home defense, yes or no? And if so, 300 Blackout or 9mm? That is the question today. Now, a lot of people think that you should not use your NFA items for home defense because if you have to use them, well, they might be confiscated as evidence. But you know what? My theory is this. I would rather lose a gun than lose my life or someone in my family lose their life. And so I believe in using every advantage possible for your home defense gun, for your concealed carry gun, for the things that you are most likely to ever use in a defensive capacity. And really, it's hard to argue with a suppressed SBR for CQB, close quarters battle, which is literally what home defense is. At least probably as close as civilians like me and some of you are ever going to get to CQB. Home defense, close quarters, you're within rooms, hallways, moving around. Something short and also suppressed is what you want, because are you going to have time to put ear pro on? Probably not. Do you want to be banging a 16-inch rifle into your walls trying to move around? Probably not. So let me know down in the comments what you think about that. Make sure you're subscribed and let's begin. For a long time, I have used this as my home defense gun. And when I say that I have used it, I've never had to actually use it in a home defense capacity, but I built this 300 Blackout suppressed short-barreled rifle to be my home defense gun in case I ever did need to use it. And it's set up perfectly for that, in my opinion. Now, these are all subjective. This is what I think is perfect for home defense. It is a short-barreled rifle. That way I'm able to run a stock and a vertical foregrip on it, which is how I like my guns to be set up. Again, every advantage possible. It's got a really good light on it. This is a mod light with the mod button mounted on an Arasaka mount with a Surefire tail cap. It's a very, very trustworthy light. I know it's going to work. It's got an optic setup that I trust and that is very easy to use. It's got a big window. It's got a circle dot reticle like an EOTech. I've got it on a riser so that I can still keep my head up and have my wits about me. And then it is suppressed because it's very likely that in a home defense situation, someone's kicking in your door in the middle of the night. You're probably not going to have time to put on ear pro. Well, my AR-9 is pretty much set up the same way now. SBR, vertical foregrip, optic on a riser. I've got a good light setup that I trust, and now it is also suppressed. And so that begs the question, which one makes more sense for home defense? A lot of people, when it comes to home defense, worry about over penetration. So 9mm versus 300 Blackout. Pistol round, rifle round. And if you're running 300 Blackout, are you going to be using supersonic or subsonic ammo? Because those are both, you're going to have different considerations for each. Supersonic ammo is definitely going to have better terminal ballistics. But subsonic ammo probably won't penetrate as much if you miss and it goes through drywall. And it's not going to hurt your hearing as much. Subs suppress really well. But again, so do 147 grain 9mm. They're naturally subsonic. So which one do you think is the way to go for home defense? I'm trying to make that decision right now, and that's what today's video is all about. I want to take a quick minute to talk about this video's sponsor, which is Aura. And the reason why is because it's a product that I actually do believe in. Now that I've been using it for a little while, it's actually improved my life. I get a lot less spam calls than I used to get, which is kind of huge. I use my phone for work, and so I have to answer numbers that I don't recognize, and it's nice to not be getting those spam calls all the time anymore. The other thing is I had my bank account hacked 3 times last year, and I had to get new debit cards at least twice. And then I had to, you know, get all of my bills that were automatically paid fixed and switched over to the new cards. Huge hassle. And Aura takes care of all that stuff so you don't end up having to deal with those kinds of problems anymore. They scour the internet and they find wherever your information is being sold to scammers and spammers and anybody else that wants to use your information to sell your information, and they submit opt-out requests on your behalf, which helps get rid of all that stuff so you don't have to deal with that anymore. And ever since I've been using it, I actually have noticed a big difference. And in fact, I get alerts from Aura when they find where my information has been leaked, and then they fix that for me. And that's been huge. And they do a lot of other things too. They have VPN, password management, parental controls, all kinds of stuff, and you get it at a very low price, a lot less than you would pay if you bought all of those things individually. And it helps the channel. With YouTube demonetizing pretty much all of my videos now, if you sign up for Aura, it helps me grow the channel, and that is greatly appreciated. So please check out Aura. Get 2 weeks for free if you use my link, aura.com/sawtooth-tactical. I'd really appreciate it. I respect my privacy, and I respect yours. Both of these guns are extremely short and maneuverable. In fact, they're both just about the exact same length. If I put them together at the stock, the AR-9 comes out a little bit ahead, but that's just because the suppressor on it, this is the Whip Machine and Tool Mod 1, has the reared-in QD system, whereas the Whip Machine Dirty 30 on my 300 Blackout is direct thread. And so the direct thread is obviously going to be shorter. The suppressors themselves are actually the same length if you don't take into account that QD system. But literally, there is like an inch of difference, if that. Both of these have, this one's got an 8.3-inch barrel. This one's got an 8.2-inch barrel. They're both AR platforms. They both have the same stock on them, the same vertical foregrip, the same charging handle, the same safety. They're very, very similar. And in fact, they're both built on Aero Precision upper and lower receivers with Aero Precision Atlas R1 handguards. These were my first two AR builds, and they both were very basic when I built them. They were both pistol builds with braces on them without vertical foregrips. And they've both been upgraded a lot within the last few months. One of my big goals this year was to finish out the firearms that I currently had and make them exactly what they always should have been. I finally got that done with this AR-9 this week when the suppressor came in, and a couple weeks before when I got the optic riser here. Now, if you've seen my video on Tuesday, the first shots with this suppressor, you might have remembered that my optic fell off this riser. I have fixed that. I've got the correct screws, Loctite, torqued correctly. That was kind of funny though. Maybe I'll roll in a little clip of that real quick. But so then, if I'm trying to make a decision between the two of these for my home defense gun, I mean, I already have my choice, but I want to see what you guys would choose, because a lot of people do worry about over-penetration. And so would you rather choose a pistol round or a rifle round? So a lot of people, for their home defense gun, just use a 9mm pistol. And I think that that's probably a really good home defense gun. It can sit on your nightstand. And in fact, this one does. I've got a little quick access safe next to my bed. I can pull this out and be ready with it very quickly. And so if 9mm is already a choice that you would use as far as ammo goes for home defense, well then an AR-9 is an obvious choice. It takes the same round, but you get much greater capacity, and you also get 3 points of contact, 1, 2, 3, which just gives you a more stable shooting position, more stable platform. If you've done any serious amount of shooting, you know that it's much easier to shoot a rifle than a pistol. I can shoot same round, 9mm. I can shoot this much more accurately from farther away, and I can get shots off faster, both from up close or farther away. It's just the nature of the beast. When you have something shouldered, it's just easier to shoot it well. Also, this is suppressed. So while 9mm doesn't have as much, noise and concussion as like a 5.56 AR if you had to use it inside, it's still going to be, without ear pro, it's going to be disorienting if it's unsuppressed. I just took this suppressor out a few days ago for the first time, ran a mag without ear pro, and it was relatively comfortable. Didn't have any ringing in my ears whatsoever. I was outdoors. That's not going to be the same inside, but it's still going to be much better than it would be without the suppressor. And so this is one of my reasonings for using NFA items for home defense. If I do have to shoot one of these inside, I would much rather it be suppressed than not. And if I lose an NFA item or it gets confiscated for a period of time, like I said, the fact that my family's lives are spared, that our hearing was spared, to me makes it worth it. And then we've got 300 Blackout, which has traditionally been my choice for home defense. 300 Blackout was basically designed and created initially to be a better substitute than an MP5. Now, an MP5 is in 9mm. It's a pistol caliber carbine. It's actually a submachine gun. But civilian MP5s are pistol caliber carbines. But 300 Blackout does a lot of great things as far as a rifle round. It is effective out of a short barrel. You don't lose much velocity running an 8.2-inch barrel like you would if you were running 5.56. It also comes in both supersonic and subsonic varieties. And subsonic rounds suppress really well. Because they don't pass the sound barrier, there is no supersonic crack associated with subsonic rounds. And so for a rifle round, they, except for like now 8.6 Blackout, subsonic 300 Blackout suppresses like as good as anything. Now, I am going to compare these two suppressors soon because I do actually think that the 9mm one is quieter. But I didn't shoot them back to back yet, so I do need to do that comparison. It really was not bad shooting that 9mm can without ear pro. Now the same thing with this. Although it was not as quiet as I initially hoped it would be. When I first got this can and ran it without ear pro for the first time, it was surprisingly loud even with subsonic ammo. And that has to do with the size of the suppressor. It's very, very compact. And with the physics of suppressors and how they work, the more volume you have, the more effective your suppressor will be. And so a compact can like this isn't going to be as quiet as a big can. But my whole reasoning for getting such a compact can, besides the price, these whip machine and tool cans are very affordable, and this was my first suppressor, is also that it keeps the overall length of this platform down to a minimum. And that's kind of the whole point of both of these builds, was to keep them very compact and maneuverable. I really like short barrels. This thing is just easier to move around than either one of these or that. That's just the nature of the beast. And for home defense, for moving around in my home, short is good. But would you run supers or subs for home defense? I've got magazines loaded up with both, with good defensive supersonic and subsonic 300 Blackout in my safe, ready to go if I needed to. I would rather run subs for that added suppression. The whole point is to not destroy my hearing, my family's hearing, so that we could still communicate in that kind of a situation. But now with subsonic 300 Blackout, are you losing out on the benefits of running a rifle cartridge? You know, subsonic 300 Blackout is basically, as far as terminal ballistics go, compared to like a spicy 45 ACP. It's about the same grain weight, and it's going about very similar speeds when it's subsonic. It does have a much more aerodynamic shape to it, so it does have better terminal ballistics than 45 ACP, but you are getting similar ballistics to a pistol round when you're shooting subsonic. Now, again, that could be a good thing as far as over penetration through your walls and stuff like that is concerned. You don't want a round to go through your walls and hit your neighbor on the other side of the street or something. Now, when it comes to that, you know, be responsible for every round that leaves your gun. And part of the point of running these SBRs, these rifle platforms, is it's really easy to be accurate with them. Now, when you're in the heat of the moment in a home defense situation, are you going to be as good a shot as you are when you're out at the range, totally relaxed and have no threats coming at you? Probably not. But you probably have a better chance of getting rounds on target with something like this than you do with a handgun. And that's kind of the whole point here. So, you know, just try not to have to worry about overpenetration by not missing your target. Again, I know when it comes down to that situation, who knows what'll happen. And so it's good to take those kinds of things into consideration. But what would you guys choose? Would you choose 300 Blackout, or would you choose 9mm if you had pretty much similar platforms in both? Now, the other thing that we have to take into consideration is reliability. What's going to be more reliable, 9mm or 300 Blackout? And the reason I asked that question is because I have had reliability issues with each of these. And they're different reliability issues, although I think that I've got them both totally remedied and fixed. So when I first built this AR9, the Ballistic Advantage 9mm barrel that I used on this, it doesn't have much of a feed cone. There aren't feed ramps on this AR9. It's a feed cone because it's direct blowback. Just the way the whole thing is designed is different than your standard chamber on an AR-15 that has M4 feed ramps. And when I first got this, if I would take the gun and drop the bolt from open, lots of times it would run that 9mm round, especially hollow points, which if you're using it for home defense, I assume you're probably going to be running good defensive hollow points. Well, it would squish those into the chamber and back set the bullet into the casing rather than feeding it correctly. Now, I went out and I bought a Dremel and I polished the absolute crap out of that feed cone, and I haven't had that issue since. This thing's been 100% reliable now for probably another 1,000 rounds. I don't think I've had a single malfunction except for the optic falling off. So this thing is very reliable now, but when you've had reliability issues with one of your firearms, it's really easy to always have that in the back of your mind. Is it going to feed properly when you need it to? Well, in that same vein of reliability, I don't have that same kind of problem with a 300 Blackout here. It is standard AR-15 in the chamber here, M4 feed ramps, no feeding issues whatsoever. The issues I've had with this was getting the buffer weight correctly to reliably cycle subsonic ammo. This doesn't have a adjustable gas block on purpose. I didn't want another point of failure, and 300 Blackout is designed that you should be able to gas it and buffer weight, tune it correctly to reliably run subs and supers. And I have gotten it there, but I had to go with a 3-ounce buffer and a Springco Yellow, which is their, lesser powered spring, in order to reliably cycle subs. And I'm sure that also has to do with the smaller can. A bigger can with more back pressure I'm sure would give it the added gas that it needs to recycle those subs, but this is the can I've got, and so that's what I had to do. This is also a reason why I have mags of both supers and subs ready to go. But in the heat of that moment, if I load up subs, fire one round and get dead trigger, am I gonna have time to drop that and put the supers in, clear it and go? That's not something that I want to deal with. So then, do I just use supers for home defense? And then, does the suppressor not really make it hearing safe? These are all things to consider. I have gotten both of these to run 100% reliable at this point. But it's still just one of those things that's in the back of my mind. Now, these are my guns specifically that I built. So you might not have any of those issues with your own AR9 or 300 Blackout or whatever PCC or SBR that you decide to run. And so that's why I want to know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you had a similar platform in each suppressed SBR AR9 or any pistol caliber carbine, suppressed SBR or pistol with a brace, whatever, 300 Blackout. Which would you choose? I really want to know, and I love reading you guys' comments, and I try to reply to as many of them as I possibly can. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, please share it, and make sure you subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.